Hey, boxing fans, what do you say? What do you know? What are you doing? Old School Saint back here after a short reprieve. Now, I did a video a few days ago on the lightweight division. Really exciting. I gave you my three top pound for pound guys right now. But been spending the last week or so, perusing the boxing sites and reading a lot of articles and getting a feel for what other people's perspectives are. And everybody's excited, which is really good. We got some great fights that just happened, and like I said, the lightweight division is really shaping up great. You got recently we had Haney, Loma, Teo, Tank Fort. So there's been a lot of fights, a lot of nice exposure going on, and there's really I'm really excited about the sport potentially coming back if the promoters and the guys who own these belts don't get in the way, and these guys really start fighting each other. I mean, you looked at Crawford and the little guy who just fought. He's just to me, he's the best fighter in the world. He's just absolutely tremendous. We got to get him in. We got to get him in there with Spence, man. It's got to happen. And then those lightweights I talked about. These guys, these young, hungry, talented guys, got to get in there and fight each other for the sport. And then you would think that these guys want to do that. You would think that these guys and their promoters want to do it. The only guy who wants to fight everybody is Lomachenko. He wants no waste fights. He wants belt fights, and that's it. And that's what makes him unique. And he's running the show in his camp. There's no doubt about it. For him, it's not about it's not about the moolah and the nonsense. It's about getting those fights and making a legacy for himself. So I have tremendous respect for him, on that count. But the thing I'm noticing is, and you know what? I think there's some innuendo here that I'd rather not get into. But the negative comments that I see about him is it's like the Rocky Marciano thing. You really wonder where the heck it's coming from. So you know what I did? I took a look at I'm familiar with Loma. I'm familiar with all of the skills and abilities he has, which I contend are grade A plus. Just about across the board. Speed. He's got good solid power. He's fighting at the lightweight division, which is I think a weight above his natural fighting class. And he carries the power up there, knocking out big guys like Linares and Campbell with body shots, putting Comey down. His power has transferred, but he's consistently fighting against guys that are bigger than him. So that's interesting. But the speed, the footwork is unprecedented. He's a more calculated and programmed Pernell Whitaker kind of guy. Pernell was unbelievable. But Pernell, you got the feeling. He was more like a jazz player. Everything was just spontaneous with him. It was an innate ability. It was a beautiful thing to watch. But when you watch Loma, you're looking Loma is more calculated. There's no doubt about it. He's got his moves that that he works on. He's got they call him the Matrix, and he does a certain amount of what he does is kind of programmed. But he's phenomenal. His reflexes are phenomenal. Like I said, his punching ability, his ability to hit and not get hit, even though he's got a short reach and he's standing right in front of you. I think that was one of the things that Comey had said. He said, I couldn't believe it. He says, he's there 1 minute and then he's gone the next minute. He's out the back door and he's, where the hell is he? And he's hitting me. But like I said, the negative comments. So let me give you kind of a sampling. Number one. That we had a few guys on one of the sites who actually ranked the top 7 lightweights, and they had Loma. One guy had him 5, the other guy had him 7. A lot of the comments that I'm hearing is that he's overrated, and that he doesn't compare to any of the the great fighters of recent eras. That he's not even in the conversation, which I think is ridiculous. Now, let me be clear. I'm not putting him on Mount Rushmore. I think that's a special spot held for those guys, and it's more than 4 guys. It's more than the 4 presidents. It's a bigger group of guys. The guys that I put at the top, and I do put a premium on this. These throwback guys who fought 150, 200, 250, 280 fights. And had massive winning careers. Guys like Archie Moore, Ray Robinson, Willie Pep, these kind of guys, Harry Greb, these kind of guys who were basically really fighters who fought, 2-3 times a month over a 20-year period, who had tremendous careers. To me, they're at the pinnacle of the game. But a guy like Loma, I don't think people appreciate, because they look and they say, hey, he's got 18 fights. You can't compare him to a guy like Floyd, and I'll get into that in a little while. Floyd has the 50 fights, and he did this, that, and this and that, and I think, and Loma lost 2 fights. Whoa, he lost 2 fights. But then you look, you dig in and you kind of look at what he's actually accomplished, and you look at his record. And I did that today. I actually went in, did a little bit of digging, and said, you know what? I know what Loma has done, but let me actually pull out some of the stats. So I have a cheat sheet here that I'm working with that I'm going to be referring to. So what I did is I looked at his first 5 fights. First 5 fights, 4 of those 5 fights are championship fights. First fight out of the gate is a 10-round fight. Okay, who fights a 10-round fight? The first fight of their professional career. Now, Loma was 396-1 as an amateur. He avenged his only loss. Yes, he had an extensive career. Won 2 gold medals. Fought in the amateurs until he was 24, 25 years old. No doubt about it. He came out as a physically mature guy. But I don't care. You're fighting 3-round fights, and you come in and you're immediately fighting 10-round fight, your first fight, and you go to a championship fight, 12-round fight, your second fight. It's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. Now, I know there's one fighter, I think in the 70s, I'm going strictly from memory, who won the championship 3 fights in, but who went on to have not even a good career. I think he wound up retiring it with 17, 18 wins and 14 losses, or whatever it was. But it was not an impressive record. Nothing compared to Lomachenko. But to do what he's done is absolutely astronomical. And I'm going to go over this. And I broke it down. I broke it down into like the series of fights. So his first 5 fights, he fights guys with a record of 166-8. 4 of the 5 fights are championship fights. He wins a championship within his first 5 fights. Okay. Second group of 5 fights, 125-9 combined records of the guys that he fought. Again, all championship fights, all contenders. He now wins the super featherweight championship. Okay. Or did he win the junior? He might have won the junior. Well, the junior lightweight in this, and yeah, I think it's the same title. But anyway, so he wins that title. All right. Now, next 5 fights, 140-12, all championship fights, and he wins the lightweight title. First 15 fights, he's got 3 titles. Next 3 fights he has, because he's had 18 fights, he's a combined record of 64-4. So first 18 fights combined, he's fighting guys. First of all, 15 of the 18 fights are championship fights. Your first 18 fights, your first 15 of those fights are championship fights. Combined record, all of these guys are top contenders. No tomato cans. No guys even outside the top 10. 495-33. That's an unprecedented accomplishment in the boxing game. So on the one hand, you have guys who had these long extended careers. You have some of the guys, the more modern guys, who are fighting 50, 60 fights, and they have tremendous accomplishments. And then you have this one guy here who it's unprecedented, who's done what he's done in his first 18 fights. 2 gold medals, 4 top level guys, championship fight level guys, championship fights. 2 of the guys are undefeated. One of the guys is a former gold medalist in the Olympics, and they quit. And they don't quit because they're getting the crap beat out of them. They quit because they're embarrassed, because they're getting completely embarrassed in the ring. I can't think of a time, other than the biggest no mas ever, with Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, where you had this sort of situation. Now in Leonard's case, it was much more dramatic, because Duran quit literally in the middle of the fight while there was action. He didn't sit on his stool between rounds. So that was unprecedented. But just just an unbelievable resume. You know, you hear people saying, "Oh, he lost 2 fights already." Look at the combined records. Look at look at how fast this guy has moved, and look at the overall record of the guys that he's fought. There's nobody compares. There's nothing close to it. Now, I looked at a couple other guys. Okay, so I had to put Floyd in there because, you know, Floyd is the guy. You know, because Floyd, you know, speed, smart, you know, the whole thing, good footwork, good defense, the whole bit. You know, that's kind of the natural comparison. I think it's a natural comparison. My friends on the boxing sites, many of them think it's an absurd comparison because they think Floyd is in another category. They think he's on Mount Rushmore. I don't see it, and I'll tell you what. I think I'll tell you just one generation of fighters that I think would have beat him. Okay, I'm gonna name them. Roberto Duran would have beat him. Sugar Ray Leonard would have beat him. Tommy Hearns would have put him in the hospital. Okay? Aaron Pryor would have been a real interesting fight. I think Pryor would have overwhelmed him. He would have taken some shots, but Pryor had an unbelievable chin and unbelievable stamina. So I don't see Floyd beating him. Julio Cesar Chavez, Floyd's not knocking out Julio Cesar Chavez. And if he's going to go and sit on the ropes and play that little shell game with Chavez, he's going to get punished. So I think Chavez has a good chance of beating him. The last guy, who I thought was just a great fighter, I love to. I think I'm going to do a video on him because I thought he was almost the picture perfect image of what a fighter should look like, and that's Alexis Arguello. My God, like a racehorse, 5'9", 5'10". You know, long arms, racehorse legs, perfect body, and technique and power. I don't know if he had the speed to beat Floyd. I think Floyd would have beat him to the punch. That would have been a really tough fight. But there it is. I give you 5 guys who either would have outright beat him or gave him really good fight. And that's one generation of guys. That's in one generation. So Floyd Mayweather is not at the pinnacle on the all-time fighting list. There's just no way. But let's look at Floyd's career. First 5 fights. Combined record, first 5 fights, 16-12. Okay? His opponents in those first 5 fights went on to have, illustrious careers. The first guy was 1-5. The second guy went on to a 12-47 career. The other guy was 16-16. The fourth guy was 0-4. He only had 4 professional fights. And the fifth guy was 10-14. Second group of 5 fights, combined record, 62-42. Okay? Combined record, 243 and 108 over the first 18 fights. Not bad, but no championship fights. He waits until his 10th fight before he fights a 10-rounder. And Floyd, like I said, Floyd had an illustrious amateur career. You know, he should have won the damn gold medal. Grew up in the gym, so he was a very mature. Maybe not body wise, because he started. You know, he started when he was 20. And again, I tell you, Loma was definitely a more mature physical specimen. But Floyd grew up in the gym, and in terms of poise and skill and ability, I mean, he had it all from day one. He was. I give the man the credit that he's due. The other guy that I looked at was Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray Leonard was. I didn't take a deep dive, but his first 18 fights. No championship fights, 335 and 98 were the combined record of the guys that he fought against. And I think it took him 12 or 13 fights, I'm not sure, to get to his first 10-rounder. So this is not to knock any of these guys. I also looked at Ray Robinson. Ray Robinson fought, again, guys didn't have winning records early on. And Ray obviously, did not get a championship fight until well into his career. And that had nothing to do with his ability. That had everything to do with racism. We know the whole story with boxing and race. It was one of the sports that did have a level of integration. Many great black champions going back, but listen, they had to do more to get a championship fight. Excuse me. And then you had guys who were championship quality guys who never even got that fight, never even got to the championship fight. You look at guys like Archie Moore, didn't get a title shot till he was well into his 30s. Same with Joe Walcott. Take nothing away. I mean, I absolutely recognize that. But in terms of Ray Robinson, Ray Robinson was Jesus. What he was 40-0, I think, and then he lost to the Raging Bull Jake LaMotta in his 41st fight, and I think he went like 80. He won 80 consecutive fights after that before he lost again. And by the way, I'm pretty sure the fight that he lost to LaMotta, I think Ray was at 147 and LaMotta was at 160. And Ray could carry around the 147, and LaMotta, if he probably came into the ring, even heavier than the 160. So there was definitely a sizable size disadvantage there. And even when Ray lost the title to Joey Maxim in Yankee Stadium, he was beating him, and then the 98 degree weather, basically sapped all his energy. So to me, it's Robinson and then everybody else. Like I said, you got those guys who are on that, who are on Mount Rushmore. I think Ray is right in the middle there. Archie Moore is someplace there. Willie Pep is someplace there. Joe Louis is definitely there. Harry Greb is someplace in the back with an unbelievable, career that he had. Jack Johnson. I mean, a lot of these guys. Now, these guys are not in that class. Although the other guys that I mentioned are from the modern era. Sugar Ray Leonard is absolutely there. Roberto Duran is there. These guys are among the best fighters that ever lived. I think Marvin Hagler is, outside of Ray Robinson, arguably maybe Carlos Monzon. I don't know, the greatest middleweight who ever lived. So a lot of great guys from recent eras. So I don't want to downplay that. But anyway, Lomo. I think Lomo needs to get his propers. I think people need to kind of reorient themselves when they're evaluating his career, because what he's done in such a short period of time, and the fact that you can't look to you really can't look to any other career in the history of boxing that compares to it, and that's saying something. So I think this is going to be interesting how this plays out. In the next couple of years with that lightweight division. I think Lomo, if these promoters can come together and we can get these fights happening within a short period of time, get these guys, fighting each other. Like I said, Lomo is 33. I don't know where he is on that mountain. Does he have another year? Does he have another 2 years? Does his last fight, he looked as sharp as ever. His game is there, but you just don't know how long it takes before you start slipping. Some of these things happen overnight. They happen in a 6-month period of time. So you don't know. So I'm hoping that all these fights happen quickly. I think he's the class of the lightweight division right now, no doubt about it. And I think if he winds up beating, and I think he will, he has the opportunity to fight these guys. He'll beat these guys, including Teo. I think he'll beat him easily the second time that he fights him. And then maybe he'll get the propers that he deserves. But anyway, for me, Lomo, baby, I got nothing but respect for you. And to me, you're a top-notch guy. Peace out.